Hello and welcome to this CNBC-TV18 Zetwerk Smart Manufacturing Summit. Our theme today is about preparing India's manufacturing sector, the legacy companies to be more agile, and new age companies, startups to be ready for the future as well. What we're discussing today is beyond transition, integrating new age companies to reshape the manufacturing ecosystem. Let me introduce our panel. We've got with us Prashant Girbane, Director General at Maratha Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We also have with us Alok Palsekar, Executive Vice President for the Aerospace and Industrial Business. Srinath Ramakrishnan, Co-founder and CEO at Zetwerk. Amit Rakesh Sethi, Executive Vice President, Chief Information and Digital Officer, Thermax Limited, and member of Thermax Executive Council. Arun Nagarajan, India Digital Emerging Technologies Partner at EY. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Prashant, if I could begin with you, give us a sense of the conversation within the Maratha Chambers of Commerce currently on what you are expecting from the government, the kind of challenges that you're facing, because the Maratha Chambers of Commerce is a very strong and decades-old industry body.
What industry always expects is policy stability. I think that's all that industry expects at the highest possible level. Second thing is, I think, ease of doing business. Over the last few years, certainly it has improved, but ye dil mange more. We would need a lot more ease of doing business so that small companies and large companies are able to invest and create jobs. There is third element that I would want to add. MCCI has a lot of big companies as its members, but hundreds of small companies as well. The MSMEs that contribute 1/3 of GDP of our country are demanding one big thing. And what is that one big pain they have? Delayed payments. Large companies don't pay them on time. There is a simple solution, and that's what we are expecting government to work on. The simple solution is, if you connect the GST platform with the trades platforms, every invoice is available to be discounted by the large financial institutions. Without spending a penny, government would be able to solve the delayed payment issue worth 10 trillion rupees, helping 1/3 of our GDP and hence allowing those 16 crore MSMEs to contribute in this journey of growth to get to that $5 trillion economy as soon as possible.
Mr. Palsekar, if I were to ask you, what are some of the opportunities that the Tata Group would like to exploit over the next 10 years? If there would be 3 to 4 areas that you see as potential growth for the Tata Group, what would those be?
You see, Tata Group is a 150-year-old institution, and it has been one of the pioneers in India in many years. It's not just about the old industries, but if you see today, the Tata Group is investing in all the new areas, be it in terms of renewables, be it in terms of high-tech manufacturing, be it in terms of battery manufacturing. So the group has been reinventing itself in almost every new area which is relevant for the Indian economy. So I think the group is, no longer a legacy group. It's more of one of the startup groups as well, in that sense.
Srinath, if I were to ask you, Zetwerk is into supply chain related to multiple sectors. If there were certain priority areas that you would like to share with us, what would those be, which you feel are integral to your growth story over the next 10 years?
I think the frontier areas where we see explosive capacity creation happening in the country are electronics, aerospace and defense, and renewable energy. I think these are 3 areas that even at Zetwerk, we are looking at a multi-year capacity investment, capacity creation strategy. And we are looking at creating capacities, not just for India's consumption, but for making in India for the world is the thought process when we are going about creating these capacities.
Right, making in India for the world. Mr. Sethi, to ask you about Thermax, what are some of the growth opportunities that you see in India and abroad that you would like to leverage in the coming years?
We are primarily focused on meeting the industrial needs around clean energy, clean air, and clean water, right? And so we are looking at a whole host of solutions and products which meet these needs of our industrial customers. So these could be opportunities in the renewable space, helping our customers transition from coal to biomass-based energy, helping our customers with clean water through water treatment plant solutions, effluent treatment plant solutions. And then, of course, looking at the environment, the clean air part of the business, the environmental pollution from industrial emissions, right? Besides that, we do have other businesses which again meet the needs of our industrial customers like chillers, etc., which again we are enabling digitally for our customers to move into an era where they can leverage the mechanical engineering expertise we have, couple that with the digital expertise, and offer solutions to our customers in these spaces.
Right. Let me also get in a word from Arun at this point. Arun, just maybe a quick check of India's report card so far over all the reforms that have worked, that have not worked. How have the PLI schemes actually performed in terms of boosting India's manufacturing footprint and making exports more competitive?
Yes, I think one of the key steps when you're looking at making India or manufacturing in India, I think, has been the PLI scheme. This is really taken off in sectors, and it's also enabled a lot of the emerging technologies, like, for example, EVs, drones, where you've seen a vast swathe of PLIs which is being adopted. While the adoption will vary from sector to sector, but largely there's been a lot of focus in investing in capacity. There has been a lot of focus in kind of manufacturing in India rather than assembling in India. I think that's great news from a PLI perspective. And there has been a lot of growth that you've seen. So if you look at mobile, if you look at electronics, you'd see a great adoption over there. It is also kind of driven emerging technologies like drones and also advanced chemistry, which is critical when you come from an EV or electric vehicle sector. So overall, I think it looks good. The key thing is to focus on saying how is this going to kind of get adopted over the next few years, and how do you transition out of it? And then that's a critical checkpoint to kind of look at it.
Prashant, coming back to you, when it comes to the chambers, are there certain mentorship programs that you're having for startups, for new companies, and even some of the legacy companies on the challenges ahead, on how to keep yourself agile for the future, how to prepare for a competitive but highly volatile global environment?
I think many programs we conduct, because that's one of the key things that as a chamber we are supposed to do. Last year when I looked at it, there were about 8,000 individuals who came and attended one of the 117 capability building programs. Out of those 8,000 individuals, at least 1/4 were either micro companies below 5 crore turnover, which means most of them startup, whether you call them e-commerce startup, electronic consumer space, or manufacturing startups. That's first. Second, we have an interesting initiative in Pimpri-Chinchwad, which is one of the industrial zones in Maharashtra. We have a incubation center focused only on manufacturing. Nothing to do with electronic e-commerce, electronic consumers, and none of that, just focused on manufacturing. We have auto cluster and electronic cluster there. We are able to make those facilities available for these startups to use that capital expenditure, because that's one of the biggest challenge for small companies. They can't have a machine worth 20 crore to experiment with something. Here it is available for them to work on, and that facility will continue to make available so that startups come forward and work using these machines, using the mentoring that we're able to provide, so that they progress and they come up with newer products.
Right. Mr. Palsekar, I'd like to ask you, we spoke about priorities of the Tata Group. It's a very diversified business. Could you also give us a sense of certain policy interventions which you feel are needed at the level of the government in the next few years to make it easier to do business, to make it easier to start businesses as well?
When we say manufacturing PLI is coming into India, this manufacturing is not low-tech manufacturing. This is then high-tech manufacturing, precision manufacturing, complicated machines which are coming in. So how do you have the workforce which is ready to manage this kind of a manufacturing? And the Skill India program which is there, so we are part of that program in building the infrastructure at the state government level to make that happen. So I think if this can be accelerated, because when companies come to India to build up plants, like you talked about Tesla or any other company, they need workforce. You can't import workforce from abroad. So training that workforce, making them ready for the sophisticated manufacturing which is coming in, probably will be the top priority in that sense.
All right. Skilling the workforce, making them employable for the future, that you feel should be a priority. Srinath, coming to you, what is your expectation or areas where you would like to collaborate with some of the big companies, with the government in manufacturing and even supply chain?
There are definitely very interesting opportunities, primarily available with the public sector institutions of the country, where the big and the small can come together to create very interesting value for both the government as well as for themselves. The second important area is on the supply chain itself. Today, the world is moving towards a more agile kind of a supply chain model. Uh, Supply chain from a consumption standpoint is moving from a low mix, high volume to a high mix, low volume kind of a scenario. Nobody wants to rate contract, or nobody wants to commit multi-year volumes, right? So everybody is wants to be a very nimble kind of a supply chain model, and this is where the Zetwerk model, we are asset light. We are built on top of the varied capacities and manufacturing capabilities across the MSME ecosystem. So we can definitely come together, integrate the capacities, and offer a solution which is really tenable for a high mix, low volume kind of a scenario.
Mr. Sethi, if I were to ask you about generating clean energy and reducing our carbon footprint across manufacturing, what are some of the interventions that are now needed from the government end? Because everyone wants a long-term roadmap.
From a government perspective, I would say some of the interventions that can be needed and that can be implemented are around clean air, clean water, right? Helping industries operate in an environment which is regulated, but at the same point of time also putting in rules such that industries can comply with them without any significant overheads on the business, right? Another area where the government can step in and create value from a clean energy perspective is encouraging digitalization, right? Helping industries digitalize, where some of these mechanisms for monitoring the consumption of clean energy or generating clean air and clean water can be digitally monitored and regulated, right? That drives transparency, that reduces overheads, and that encourages businesses to invest further. Yeah.
Right. Arun, if I were to ask you about comparisons, the kind of incentives that we are getting in the United States, in China, that has made those manufacturing economies the way they are. Just if you look at the semiconductor policies of the two countries, there is no comparison in terms of funding. How much money will we have to shell out? And do you think if we want to fund such an ambitious growth story, does India have the fiscal headroom? And if you don't, what is the plan B in order to make yourself attractive?
One of the key notable facts when you look at the semiconductor supply chain, it's one of the most concentrated supply chain in terms of production capabilities, in terms of equipment that's required to do the production of the capabilities. There's been a lot of research, there's been a lot of development over the years, and today where US and probably China are is as a result of continuous investment over a period of 20 years. So I think that we should definitely be cognizant of the development that's happened. Can we manage and can we meet the kind of the physical requirements to build that kind of a capability over the period of next 5 years? I think that's going to be a challenge, right? But the key idea is to make a start and to make continuous kind of investments in terms of policy, in terms of incentives, and also bringing the right technology partners to extend the supply chain. In terms of what's working for us definitely is the China Plus One. I think that's been a conscious shift that's happened. So it gives you a positive tailwind for you to grow, but we need to capitalize and ensure that we have a consistent incentives and investment to drive that. Yeah.
All right. We're running out of time, but let me just put in final questions on the importance of artificial intelligence. Let me begin with you, Prashant. When it comes to artificial intelligence, what do we do in order to make sure we don't miss the bus? We often speak about missing the mobile phone manufacturing bus. What do we do in order to make sure that we stay ahead on AI?
I think we'll need to work at 3 different levels. At one level, basic research. Whole lot of research needs to happen here so that when the algorithms are being written, you have a say in those. Second, we need to work on the ethics of the AI at the highest possible level. And third, in terms of the ground level implementation, you need to create multiple clusters multiple clusters where people can look and feel and see it, so that many other people look at those role models and want to replicate it, implement it. They understand what it delivers in terms of outcome. So I think those are the three things that we need to do.
All right, Mr. Palsekar, when it comes to artificial intelligence, the debate over loss of jobs, cutting down a workforce, creating more efficiencies in the business, what do you think will settle this debate?
You see, I am reminded of a, in similar incident which happened 30 years back when computers were being brought in India. There was a lot of protests from several sectors, including the clerical staff, that they will lose jobs. And these protests went up to the streets and everything. And what happened actually? It ended up creating more jobs. I think we are at that stage of understanding of AI. Yes, AI has the potential to disrupt, and probably more new jobs will be created, and including in manufacturing. I mean, the tremendous amount of use cases which are there in terms of improving your efficiency using AI are humongous, and I think we already see them at work.
Srinath, if I were to ask you, how are you using AI in terms of increasing the efficiency of all your businesses, making predictions faster, also the kind of investments you're making in training your workforce?
The whole digital tech stack that we are building at Zetwerk is built on two important paradigms. One is on operations excellence, safety, quality, delivery, cost. And second is building a transparent supply chain, transparency, visibility, traceability, right? So these are the fundamental two paradigms in which tech adoption within the supply chains that we are focusing on is happening. AI has the power to impact every single metric, right? The way we audit vendors' production performance, right? We have shift level reports. We have, or when we implement MES, manufacturing execution system, which is an IoT enabled production data coming real time from the shop floor, AI can have a significant impact on how you use that from a point of view of planning your production, or it could be even SIOP, sales, inventory, operations planning. So we need to first embrace AI rather than think that it can disrupt or it can impact the way we work. And the moment we start embracing this technology, we will start seeing the myriad of opportunities in which it can positively impact the way we deliver things.
Mr. Sethi, if I were to ask you about AI, how are you using it across businesses? How would you increase the usage of AI over the next 5 years?
AI is something that we have been working on use cases for the last 3 years at least now. And we, in fact, look at it from different lenses. One is for our customers, right? So we today have a product called Edge Live, which we are using to mainstream AI consumption in the country across industries, starting from the MSMEs to the Fortune 20 companies, and not just in India but also abroad. This is the AI-enabled product that we have built, where customers, if they want, for example, want to move from coal to biomass, right? What is the most cost-efficient way of moving from a polluting source of energy to biomass? And we use AI/ML algorithms there to ensure that that transition happens cost-effectively for our customers, right? We are implementing AI today in our water treatment business, right? Where we are looking at water treatment, effluent treatment, sewage treatment for urban societies too. And we are enabling that with our AI-based solutions, right? So overall, that's the customer lens. Of course, there's an internal lens of productivity where we are exploring Gen AI and its use cases for our businesses. There, it's very important to step back and think about, as responsible businesses, on what problem are you trying to solve for, right? If you think about before Gen AI, before November 2022, we were all worried about environment, ESG is a big deal. And suddenly, if you bring in Gen AI and you just focus on productivity, then you've lost the game. We need to focus on new product development, leveraging Gen AI that solves for some of the ESG concerns. In fact, we are looking at some early use cases where we can use Gen AI to enable our services staff to service our equipment better, look at new product development applications in engineering, etc.
Right. Arun, my final question to you. How do we get our AI policy right to make sure that we gain from it economically and this does not disrupt our economy in any way? What are the learnings from earlier reforms, learnings from some of the global best practices? It's still very, very new. How do we make sure that we are aligned to global standards and the policy encourages the manufacturing sector?
I think one of the key parts when you look at an AI policy, the technology is evolving much faster. So that's something when you are creating a regulation, it's important to keep that in mind. So while you look at responsible use, while you look at essentially creating trust at a design level, when you are kind of building the model or training the model, ensure that you don't have bias while kind of creating that entire solution. I think those are the corner pillars while maintaining privacy. That's a key part when you kind of look at scraping large amount of data and then training AI models over there. So while you have these pillars, also the key part when you come from a regulation perspective is to ensure that you have an open stance. You are looking at saying how technology is evolving and you are willing to participate, engage, and embrace the technology to say how can that regulations be evolved as the technology evolves, right? So the key part, I think the potential of leveraging AI in the manufacturing field will get realized at the pace at which the regulation keeps up with the technology change. I think that's the key part that we need to get right. I think we've taken the first step to be amongst the first countries to bring an AI policy and start talking about AI policy. That's a great start. The key idea is to bring that in force, have a strong execution focus, and evolve as the technology evolves.
Right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on this program, giving us your roadmap on where we can take India as a manufacturing powerhouse and what are some of the policy interventions that are also needed. Thank you once again for watching the Zetwerk CNBC TV18 Manufacturing Summit.